April delivered what March could not. Gold found its footing, and Bitcoin put together its strongest month in over a year. And on the regulatory front, the Clarity Act moved closer to the Senate floor vote than in any other point in history, so it's very close now. A lot has shifted this month, and every piece of it connects to what we are actually building. This is the Ayni Gold update for April. I'm Daniel Tschinkel, CTO at Ayni Gold. So let's get into it. Gold found in April a new equilibrium after March's sharp sell-off. The month opened near $4,370 and consolidated for the first 2 weeks and recovered towards $4,700 to $4,800 range by mid-April. And this came as geopolitical dynamics around the Strait of Hormuz kept market participants pretty much on edge. The macro setup for gold is generally complicated right now. On the one hand, you have the Strait of Hormuz conflict that has pushed the Brent price above pretty much $90, and this has reignited inflation fears, which kept the Fed on hold. That is a headwind for non-yielding assets like gold in the short term, of course. But on the other hand, the same conflict and the broader uncertainty around the US-Iran negotiations, they have drove a safe haven flow that kept buyers pretty much engaged through the whole month. The broader institutional view remains pretty much constructive, I would say. So with JP Morgan says that their estimates it can hold that for gold be around $6,300 by end of year. Goldman Sachs says 4,500, Deutsche Bank says 6,000 on the table. So overall, I would say quite optimistic in all regards. So if we average out all of what the Reuters polls and their 30 analysts have predicted, we're looking around the 4,800 range. What matters is the range of outcomes, and these outcomes still favor the upside significantly. And every institution on that list has central bank demand and de-dollarization as a structural driver. Gold closed the month around the 4,700, roughly flat versus March close. But in a month where the geopolitics and the rate dynamics were pulling in opposite directions, flat, I would say, is a solid result. And the long-term chart remains quite constructive, I would say. Now over to Bitcoin. Bitcoin, of course, is always for us to analyze, and after straight months of losses in Bitcoin, we had now a genuine recovery month, I would say. BTC opened in April near $68,000 and climbed steadily towards 79,000 zone before it did quite the pullback. As of the final week of the month, BTC is up around 14%, and the best month performance since November 2024. The recovery was driven predominantly by the return of institutional demand, which we have been waiting for, and US spot Bitcoin ETFs absorbed nearly 19,000 Bitcoin in just 5 days of trading, and the final stretch of the month, which is roughly 9 times of the newly issued supply in that period, I would say. So this is quite a lot of demand. Tether's USDT supply grew by $5 billion, adding broad liquidity to the market, especially to the crypto market. So the $79,000 level has proven to be a meaningful cap with institutional overhead supply, sitting just above it. Traders are now watching whether the April Fed meeting and continued ETF inflows can turn that resistance into a good support zone. If that really happens, then the trading range shifts higher. And if the flows post-meeting in BTC, if they fade away, then likely the range will be somewhere between 75 to 77,000 in the near term. For Ayni holders, of course, the month of April confirmed what the prior month suggested. When macro uncertainty rises, gold-linked assets hold their ground. And when crypto recovers, it does so from a weaker structural base. The divergence in year-to-date performance between gold and Bitcoin remains quite significant, I would say. And now let's head over to the real-world asset part, let's say, because there is big news on that too. So we had the Clarity Act is now the single most important piece of legislation, I would say, for the tokenized industry. And in April, it brought it closer to the finish line than any other point in history. So over 100 US crypto companies, including Coinbase, Ripple, they have sent a joint letter to the Senate Banking Committee urging to have a markup of the bill. The Senate Banking Committee markup, a required step before the bill can actually reach the floor, is now targeted for late April, and let's see if in May it will be passing. Senator Bernie Monero has stated clearly that if the bill does not reach a Senate vote by May, unfortunately then the digital asset legislation may not move again for years. So fingers crossed on this one, and I hope that it passes. On the market side, on-chain RWA value crossed $30 billion for the first time, reaching around $30.05 billion as of April 24th. And this comes according to RWA XYZ data, which is a 10% gain roughly versus to the prior month where we mentioned this. Even as the broader crypto markets experience uncertainty, RWAs is the way to go. So the sector is increasingly behaving like an institutional portfolio infrastructure, if someone could say. So it is a good direction. Now, of course, let's head into and do a deep dive on what's happening on our concession. In April, everything was about expanding our capacity and continuing the systematic upgrade of our processing infrastructure that we have set up there. Here is what the team has completed actually this month. First off, the quarry expansion work has been processing as scheduled and is going along pretty well. Stripping operations are ongoing, and we are prepared for the next phase of the extraction zone. This is a foundational work that we provide for us because with the additional throughput over the coming months, it will allow us to also extract more. We brought an additional sluice channel also and have made it operational, so this is a big upgrade. And this will be used specifically for the processing the carpets. You've seen probably that in the videos. This adds another processing lane and increases the volume of concentrate that we can run through the finishing stage without creating any bottleneck. So an additional upgrade was the electrical infrastructure. This has also been updated, and this was very important because it gives us the possibility to run the facility much more efficient. And we have run first level component tests on the concentration models now. This means also that the individual units are being at the moment validated before the full system can go live there. But once fully commissioned, the module will be meaningfully improve the fine gold recovery that we have there on the smaller particle fractions that our current wash plant can do and actually capture. Think of it as an additional layer basically so that we don't miss any gold during the extraction process. Each of these steps, of course, is compounding, I would say, and it plays a foundational role on how much capacity we have. And the concession coming online now is operationally quite different from the previous one. And the upgrades in April are part of the same long-term build we have been executing since the launch, which makes it very exciting seeing the process of it and the continuous growth of it, I would say. Now, of course, to the next segment, let's head into the heart of our ecosystem, the Ayni Gold app, where we had a lot of updates. In April, we brought a meaningful set of improvements to the app, where we focused on making it easier to participate in gold mining by adding an additional layer that you can use for purchasing. So we integrated Alchemy Pay cards for the integration, and you can now buy Ayni directly by card through Alchemy Pay. This removes basically the extra step of sourcing crypto before entering a position and opens the app to a broader group of users who are coming from a fiat starting point. Still, the underlying infrastructure, of course, is as always very self-custody based, and with all the funds being credited to your virtual wallet, which we use on top of our turnkey protocol. So check that out also on our website for more details. This rollout will be taking place over the next few weeks, and we will be adding each country at a time, so keep out on when your country is supported. And using our new payment method, the credit card and debit card flows will be optimized. The entire purchase flow has been therefore also rebuilt for more speed and more reliability. And now it's actually fewer steps should be required to be able to complete the process, and it allows us for a cleaner state management and better error handling. And this also includes, of course, the faster payment options such as what everybody likes to use, Google Pay, Apple Pay. So this we have integrated as well. And both payments are available now. So it depends on which browser you're actually accessing through to be able to see if it supports it. So if you're coming from Chrome, you will see Google Pay. If you're coming from Safari, you will be seeing Apple Pay. Additionally, we have improved the withdraw and claim notifications, and some toast messages have also been updated, so they are giving now a clearer feedback when a transaction is submitted and when it's confirmed. Additionally to the bug fixes, we have made a quite fast implementation on the hotfix on the support on the ticketing system. So when there are now any support issues, they will come through without any problem. And this was only for some jurisdictions, so it didn't affect everybody, but the ones that were affected have now been handled. And as you can see, the direction here is also for us quite consistent. We try to improve, we reduce the friction at every point, and of course the user journey from the first purchase until the claiming rewards should be always quite easy and straightforward. Now, a big update, of course, for the next upcoming month. I don't want to give off too many details yet, but May will be for us the most exciting and also challenging month for us, with one of the hardest timelines tasks that we have to implement. We're currently working on something very special that I'm sure for all users will love. So keep your eyes open and your ears open on our socials for any announcements that are coming, because this update will be quite substantial. And now to our next part, the community part. This month we have published the concession documentary. So I'm pretty sure that you have probably seen it if you are following the socials. If you have followed our monthly updates, you will have heard us describe what happened at Minerales San Hilario in Peru, which is the concession on site. And our film basically takes you there directly. I personally was there at the concession, and it was really interesting to see everything there, document everything, make a full journey out of it, starting from Puerto Maldonado, the last major city actually before the jungle begins, and through the hours of the road, of the river travel, until we could finally reach the site there. Once we were there, you can see the extraction zone, you can see the washing, the trommel system, the camp, where the team lives, and how everybody works there, how the operation is running, and everything at day, at night. So we try to capture as much as possible so to be able to have a really good overview of the whole concession. So the key thing with the film shows is the connection between the real industry operation and the tokens that you're actually holding in the app. Because every gram of gold going through the processing line is what your rewards are actually calculated from. So the film should make it tangible, and I hope that it provides you an even better insight into our day-to-day operations that we have there. And you can watch it now on the same channel you're basically on right now. On the analysis side, we continue publishing weekly gold market reviews on X and in our gold market channel on the Discord server. So check it out also there if you're not subscribed there yet. This update, of course, gives you headline picture of what is happening in the industry, and on Discord post, the Discord post will give you a more deeper deep dive into what you can expect from the gold price, from analysis perspective, and everything also that is happening in the company. So the goal is for our community to have the sharpest understanding of the gold macro landscape and insight, and to be the most knowledgeable in the crypto space when it's gold related. And now, as always, as the last segment to the community questions, we have picked up a couple of questions that came from the last video. So thank you very much for sending that in. And I'm gonna read out the first question. What happens if the production slows or regulation changes in Peru? It's a great question. This question comes up a lot and it's worth addressing directly because the framing here really matters. So since the rewards are calculated from the real gold output, and that is a feature, not a vulnerability, it is precisely what separates basically Ayni Gold from protocols that pay you with freshly minted tokens out of thin air, regardless of what the underlying operation actually really produces. So the link to physical gold output is the whole point of this. And it means that your yield reflects something real, something tangible. And on the regulatory side, of course, Minerales San Hilario is a legally registered entity in the Peruvian mining company, registered under INGEMET, which is the national mining regulator. So the operation holds all necessary permits for alluvial extraction and runs a full compliance with Peruvian mining law. This is very important because otherwise we will not be able to operate there. So this is not a gray area setup or a jurisdictional workaround. It is a licensed company doing the work there, being registered with the state, with the government, and having a whole paper trail that can showcase this. So, and again, don't trust us, don't trust me. Head to our website, head to the government website. You can see all the links on our website also, and you can verify it yourself. So Peru, of course, has been one of the top 5 gold producing countries of the world for decades, and the legal infrastructure around mining concessions are quite mature and very well established. So that context, I think, matters because when you try to evaluate the risk, it becomes very important to know what you're dealing with. And we share production reports regularly and anchor all key data basically on chain so that the holders can also verify this. And in the trust section, for example, at our Ayni Gold website, it explains how that verification works in detail. And I think building that transparency layer is an ongoing priority also on the operational side, and we will providing even more for that. And this is, I think, a good step. Now let's head over to our second question. How does Ayni value grow with concession expansion, and can the linked throughput change? Great question. So the per token throughput is fixed on the protocol. 1 Ayni equals 4 cubic centimeters per hour of processing capacity. The anchor does not move actually, so it is a very nice average. What does scale is the total capacity of the concession, and understanding how that works is key to understanding where the value goes. At the system level, the full Ayni token supply is calibrated to the amount of gold producible from the active Minerales San Hilario concession over a minimum of 6-year period, assuming all tokens were in circulation, which will take, of course, much longer to be the case. In practice, actual gold production is very far ahead over the circulating token supply, and that's by design. So that buffer is quite intentional and very good. It means that the system is also always grounded in real throughput and not any projections, and that holders are never in a position where the token supply can outrun the ground that actually produces it. And this is very important. As the concession also gradually expands and the total processing capacity will grow over time, 2 things happen for holders. First thing, more gold moves through the operation per day, and which moves the flows directly into a higher, of course, vote.Key distribution for the stakers, and without any change to what their individual token actually represents. So this is, of course, a net positive, and the expansion is reward positive because for everyone already in a position. So the second point, I would say that for Ayni token representing the additional capacity can now enter the circulation, which brings new capital and new staking demand into the ecosystem. So growing vote.Key rewards means new entrants, and a contracting supply over time are the 3 levels basically working in the same direction. So the contracting supply will happen through the burning mechanism. The value also of Ayni is structurally closer to a mining royalty stream, I would say, than a typical crypto asset. So it is tied to the output and real gold distributions. This also means that every staking position in the app shows concretely the gold production, the attribution to your stake, the extraction costs, the success fee, and the resulting net impacts G which you're receiving. And that is the number you are actually holding. So I hope that I answered the question on this regard. And that was it basically. Of course, now for the update for April, gold, as always, is holding its ground through a very complicated macro environment. Bitcoin, I would say, turning its best month in over a year, which maybe signals the end of the bear market. And the legislative framework for tokenized assets moving faster than it has ever moved. So this is also very good. We published now also the concession film, and the app has got some meaningful upgrades, and be sure to pay attention to the next ones. The operation has also expanded further, and we're building into a macro environment that is heavily increasing on what we are doing in a very positive manner. As always, if you are already staked with us, then a big thank you to you. You are quite early, and the infrastructure we are laying is, of course, built for you. If this is your first time here, and then you must know that the links are down below in the show notes, and you will find there our link to the app, to the website, to our Discord channels, to our Telegrams. Be sure to check that out. And we are there every day, so any questions you have, drop them there. Subscribe for these monthly updates. Drop your questions in the comments, and we will bring you up to speed, and we will include them also in the next video recording. So we read, of course, everything, and the best questions will be picked up. That is it for April. I'm Daniel, and I will see you next month. Thank you. Goodbye.